Thing that with 9 to 5, it's great that you can pay your bills and everything. But with 5 to 9, you can build your wealth. And man, I came into this country honestly to build wealth.
So what do you believe, where are we heading towards right now in this economy? And
If you make $1, you end up spending $2. Why? Because there is so much of credit card and lines of credit and all that, which is what is just simply taught. But people of today, honestly, are focused on buying liabilities as opposed to investing in assets.
saving in today's market, I think that's as good as not saving your money, right?
Every single month we pay a bill, it makes somebody else wealthy. Question we need to ask ourselves, I feel, is what amount of monthly bill that you pay yourself? Statistics Canada says right now that 95% of the people cannot retire after the age of 65.
If someone wants to sit down with us, Adi, why don't you go ahead and share how much money do we charge for all of this? Because sometimes people think, hey, I'm making money, let me start with investing.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's the right way to plan your finances here in Canada. Adi, let me share this story. And the first time, I came across this, I'll be very honest, I was almost into tears. Welcome, Aditya. It's nice to talk to you. We are someone from the same industry. So hopefully we'll be able to provide value to our audience, through this conversation that we have. Without a lot of introductions, I can go hours talking about you and the kind of professional you are in this industry. But let's just jump to it. I want to first know about your immigration journey in Canada. I know it's a challenge for all of us, but why don't you share something about your immigration journey in Canada with us?
Absolutely. Well, really excited to be here. And this is a noble cause because at the end of the day, I personally feel if you give good, you get good. And that is the same thought process I came to Canada with that, hey, we have gotten so much in life with our parents and everything. I came here to Canada 9 years ago because I thought I had been given a gift by my parents. And I came here 9 years ago, graduated from SFU and focusing a lot of work and effort and putting a lot of effort in business and focusing on multiple industries right now. So, yeah.
And what got you into the financial industry? From what I know, since I know you personally as well, I know you've been earning multiple six-figure income in your jobs as well, in your regular day-to-day. What actually got you involved into the financial industry? And why do you think, this is the place for you to be?
Absolutely. That's a fantastic question. And honestly, again, as I mentioned, right, going back to my roots, I came 9 years, studied at SFU, and I started working in IT. And I understood one thing that with 9 to 5, it's great that you can pay your bills and everything. And I like 9 to 5, no problem about that. It's a great thing. But with 5 to 9, you can build your wealth. And man, I came into this country honestly to build wealth. Because especially where we are from, Vancouver and all over North America, inflation, taxes, and standard of living is high. So I first got into it for myself to educate the community about money and finance. And then thought that, hey, you know what? Everybody needs to know about saving on taxes, reducing debt, especially when inflation and everything is at an all-time high. So that's how I got into financial services business, brother.
Right. Now, likewise, because I share this story quite a lot, but it's something that I connect to very much because when I got laid off, from the only job I had, that's when I realized in Canada, it's not all oranges, right? So there'll be setbacks and that's what we have to prepare ourselves, pre-plan on, hey, what if you do not have a job tomorrow? What if you get early in the morning, you go to your work and you get a letter saying, okay, you don't have a job anymore. What are you doing in those circumstances, right?
Absolutely.
That's exactly what we should be planning for. And that's exactly, I think we have in common that we sit down with people and we educate them about money and finance and why this is a great opportunity, for someone who wants to really learn for themselves. Right. So let's maybe start with that. So I know we have a lot of interactions in the field with a lot of people, right? So what do you believe, where are we heading towards right now in this economy? And, what are some of the daily conversations you have with people on a daily basis?
Yeah, and that's something which is amazing, right? So, I personally believe that we sit down with a lot of people, and not a lot of people are given a chance in life, right? Especially in North America, people have been taught this that, hey, if you make $1, you end up spending $2. Why? Because there is so much of credit card and lines of credit and all that, which is what is just simply taught. But where we come from, and from humble beginnings, idea is if you make $1, you first save 80 cents or 20 cents, whatever you want, and then spend the remaining. And that is something which I honestly feel is missing in today's community right now, because it's that habit which is missing. People of today, and I don't know how you face these people, but people of today honestly are focused on buying liabilities as opposed to investing in assets. Biggest asset is yourself, as we both talked about the other day or whatever. But that is something which I think. How about you? What do you think about that?
No, likewise, I really like your answer. And I think it goes back to the culture we've been brought up in, right? So our parents, for example, they were always told to save money, it's going to come in handy one day, but nobody actually showed people the vision of, okay, how is it that you're saving money? Because saving in today's market, I think that's as good as not saving a money, right? Because so as you know, like on an average, a bank account gives you less than 1% rate of returns in your bank, right? And the inflation in Canada, if we start talk about the numbers, just the inflation, the stats say that inflation was somewhere around 3.4% for the last year. So if your money is not beating inflation, and that's what I like to tell a lot of people as well, that it's if it's not at least beating inflation, that means you're losing money every day.
Absolutely.
You know, and that's what you have to see what you're actually doing about it, right? So, and that just leads on to the next question that I have for you. So, when you sit down with someone, Adi, when you're face to face, you know, when you're taking down these numbers, how is it like an average person who's let's say 40,000 he's earning in Canada right now doing a full-time job, and how do you determine his saving commitment, and then how do you follow up, and how do you provide solutions to a person like that?
And that's a very good question. See, because this was something which was not taught in university or this was not taught through financial institution. But the biggest question you need to ask yourself is what monthly bill are you paying yourself? And think about it, right? Like every single month we pay monthly bills to pay rent, pay mortgage, pay cell phone bills, to your car payment. Good for us, our cars are paid off or whatever. But idea is every single month we pay a bill, it makes somebody else wealthy. Question we need to ask ourselves, I feel, is what amount of monthly bill do you pay yourself? And that's the same question which I ask every single time when I sit down with a person. Because let's be honest, see, Statistics Canada says right now that 95% of the people cannot retire after the age of 65. It's not because they don't have education about, like they didn't go to good schools and Ivy League schools or whatever. It's because they lacked education about money and finance. They lacked habits of saving simple 10 to 20% of their monthly paycheck for themselves. And then growing and all that comes second. But first, you need to build that habit. Because whether you make 40,000 or 400,000, let's be honest, you're only going to save more as you make more. But before, you got to build that habit. And that is what I talk to people about. So how about you? Like, what do you think about that?
No, absolutely. Very, very true. And we have similar experiences in the field now that I think about it. So what I'd like to tell people is, Adi, that when somebody asks me, hey, so, what is it that you do? How is it that you'll be able to help me with my money and finance? Are you actually selling stuff to me? And that's a question I get asked a lot, right? So how I like to frame it out is I call myself like a financial doctor. And why I say that is because when I sit down with somebody, right, are they like, for example, you go to a doctor here in Canada or anywhere in the world, right? What does a doctor do? They ask you questions. Okay, what's going on with you? Okay, you're not feeling well. What did you eat? What was the last time maybe you went to the washroom? Or he asks those questions just to find out what actually is going on. And in the end, what the doctor does is, Adi, they write you a prescription. They say, okay, Adi, if you want to get better, these are the drugs that I'm writing down. Go get them and you feel better. Now, if you think about it, do you think doctor is actually selling you medicine?
Absolutely not.
Not really, right? His job is done when he says, okay, this is the medicine. You want to get better, you have it. You don't want to get better, the choice is yours.
Agree.
That's exactly what people like us do in the industry.
100%. And I completely agree with you, Suk, because there's a common misconception right now that, hey, let's say if I meet someone, people expect that I am expecting that they need to do business with me. Well, absolutely not. See, my job over there, our job essentially is to bring value to people. And that is what we were heard by someone. That's the same thing which we are providing and doing for the community over here. So the doctor analogy which you gave, amazing. Like misconception was that, hey, only in bad times you go to a doctor. But guess what? Now with the way how things are, in good times, you need to be aware of what are the best strategies so that you take care of your health today and then you reduce your doctor visits in the bad times, because the bad times will not come, because guess what? You take care of them in the good times. And that is the thing, whether it is good times, whether it is bad times, you need a doctor. So financial doctor is the biggest doctor I personally feel everybody needs to have in Canada, apart from knowing a lawyer, apart from knowing a real estate agent, or from an immigration perspective, or anyone. And yes, like all the trades, plumber and electrician and all those people, we need them.
Yeah.
But financial side, absolutely, you need that.
Great. And sorry to cut you, but this was a great analogy that I, was overhearing the other day in the office, that somebody was mentioning, if your pipes are leaking in a home, will you call a plumber or will you call a doctor? Or if you, for example, let's say you want to get your garden done, will you call like a person who's good with handling all that, or will you just maybe ask your 5-year-old son to do that, right? So I personally believe that professionals are there in this industry for a reason, right? So if you don't take that first leap of faith and go talk to someone who can help you in the right direction, because it's, guess what, it's their job to do so.
Absolutely.
So why not? And especially with people like us, and people think it costs a lot to sit down with a professional, and that is something I think we should lay emphasis on, that if someone wants to sit down with us, Adi, why don't you go ahead and share how much like money do we charge for all of this?
Absolutely. And that's a very good question. See, so what we do charge is we charge with commitment. is what I would say. Because at the end of the day, every bit there, like there is a bank to save money, but guess what? There is no bank which saves time. So time is very important for you. It's for me, and same for other person as well. So question over there becomes, hey, it's not about the money which we are going to charge you or anything. It's all going to be dependent on your values which we provide you. So let's say if I sit down with someone and I help you save on taxes, well, that's when I get compensated. So there is value being delivered on both the sides. That is something which people lack about, I feel so. Because think about it, if you know better, you do better. Isn't that the question?
Absolutely correct.
And lots of people, unfortunately, don't know better. Now, whose fault is it? Is it the government's fault? Is it somebody else's fault? Is it the institution's fault? Is it your parents' fault? Absolutely not. It is your fault. Why? Because you didn't reach out. And that is why we are grateful to be in this opportunity where we have a platform to leverage and help people through social media in order to educate about money and finance, and then see, hey, how is it that we can help them? So when it comes to money wise, absolutely, money is in money business. And that is something which I personally say when it comes to this.
No, great. And so just to sum it up, whatever you said, we basically charge absolutely $0 for the person that we are sitting down with. And I'm glad that I'm part of such a culture where, how I see it is like a win-win.
Yes.
Client wins, they get education free of cost. They get to explore their options better. Even if you're investing, that's what I tell people that, hey, if you are investing maybe through your bank, maybe you have a Wealth Simple account, maybe you're investing through any other sources, does it hurt to get a second opinion?
Absolutely not.
Not right. So that's exactly what I tell them that, hey, come in, sit down with me, or you, or people like us, and see what you're planning. Is it the right way to do it? Because, and I don't want to jump in a lot of details, because sometimes people think, hey, I'm making money, let me start with investing.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's the right way to plan your finances here in Canada, right?
Yeah.
So just before we get into that, let's do this just to make it easier for everybody to understand. Why don't you give me an example of a client that you helped, and how was it that you were able to help them? What were the outcomes? What were the results? And what made their life better?
Absolutely. And that's a very good question. So, because see, knowledge is everything, but unless you apply it, it doesn't make sense. And one of my favorite quotes is, hey, like innovation is rewarded, but execution is worshipped. What that means is you need to execute or apply that, only then it will make sense. And this is an example where I sat down with a husband and wife making good money, like 150,000 together as a household income. And they have a house over here in Surrey, British Columbia, mortgage, and we did their F&A and all that stuff. And initially the guys came in and they're like, hey, like we want to understand how things could work better for us, and we are not able to save money and this and that. And when we sat down, we found out that, hey, it's husband and wife income that together makes the household, right? They have a good mortgage, whatever, for their house, and worst case situation, anything happens, guess what? One income goes away. All of a sudden, there's a bankruptcy on the way. So idea over there is you need to plan for both good times and bad times. And it is different for different people. But when I sat down with that family, it was not like any like rocket science which I shared with them. It was more on the application side. It was more on the practical side of, if they were to get started, how could their life be changed, right? Because being in this industry for a couple years now, we have seen these examples live where, hey, we plan for good things, but bad things happen. And nothing bad will happen. But what if the good times come as well? That is also when we need to be there and help. And we sat down with the family, we presented, and they were very happy about it, ecstatic about it. You know what's funny though, Sok? Like the family was helped, they were happy. I was happy because I was able to help them. Of course, I made my money as well. But at the end of the day, I saw two things from the family. You know what? They were smiling because we set up good plans for them. And then second of all, they were so happy that they fed me as well at the end. See, it's not about dinner. It's not about like, oh, I can't afford my own lunch or dinner, or whatever the case is. It's about bringing happiness in the world. And that is what we do for people. We go out there, we show them plans of how they can become happy in life when it comes to their financial side of things. So this is something which we go in the field, sit down with people, educate them, and then try to bring value based on that, right? So, but same question extended to you, right? Like you sit down with a lot of families and you have about 800 families that you've sat down with, and you have a big number that you're helping with your team all across North America. So what are some of the examples, right? Like how are some families being helped?
Now that you asked, Adi, let me share this story. And the first time, I came across this, I'll be very honest, I was almost into tears. Sometimes the families that we touch really, really impact. And, I try to not take anything with me to my sleep, but sometimes some stories just touch your heart, right? For example, summers are coming, they're in another 1-2 months, it'll be the most beautiful time in Canada right now. And a lot of people will be expecting their parents to come over, right? So this story is about one such person. I will not name them for obvious reasons, but they invited their parents to come over just to visit them and have good time with them and show them the best of Canada. But guess what ended up happening? Father had some heart condition and was taken to the hospital.
Yeah.
$500,000 was the bill that was handed over to my now client, right? And think about it, like an average student who's here, who's already, so much in water, who's maybe sold everything back home, come here just to study.
Yeah.
And if they're given a bill of $500,000, how do you think they're going to take care of it?
Yeah.
So the right protection, and I want to, through this conversation, I want to reiterate and tell it out there to the people, do not neglect these things.
Yeah.
How much does it cost? Like $10, literally a month.
Yeah.
Right? To get yourself and your family protected.
Absolutely.
So if you're getting visitors, if you're getting your family members to come visit you anytime soon, have a protection plan for them at least.
Yes.
That's what I do. Every time I invite my parents over to Canada, I make sure there is a protection plan in place.
Yes.
Because you don't know, like you always say, right? Good things, we plan for good things, but bad things happen.
Yeah.
Like we were discussing, Aditya, like you sit down with hundreds of people, if not thousands, right? Through whatever channels that we have. So what is your biggest learning from whatever all the meetings you have done? And what are some of the points that you would like to, through the medium, tell the people who are right now in Canada, maybe struggling with money and finance, right? So,
wow, no, that's like that's a very good question in terms like it will take a lot of me to answer. But one of my biggest learnings, honestly, is to invest in yourself. See, right? Like and there is a very powerful quote where people say like, hey, there are multiple things you can do with time. You can spend it, you can waste it, but the biggest thing you can do is invest it. And investing in yourself is something which is way bigger. So we understand, or I understand that, hey, you're here in a study permit and you're investing in your study so that eventually you can make good money. Question to yourself is, do you want the last 5 years of your life to look like the next 5 years of your life as well? If not, then something has to change. How will it change now? It is by investing in your own time. So maybe start reading good books, maybe start networking with people who are looking forward to grow in life, right? Maybe start hanging out with good people at the gym. See, we also love enjoying spending time and wasting time here and there, and it's good, no problem, right? But invest in yourself. Because I personally live by this philosophy and strategy is you either play now and pay later, or you pay now and play later. So it's very important for you to understand, I feel, is every time I sit down with young people, especially when we are young as well, but as we sit down with other people who are there along with us, that is what I try to find out. Hey, what is your goal? Where is it that you want to head down to? Right? Because at the end of the day, in our languages, if I say like, insan hi insan ko madad karta hai, what that means is people only can help people together. So idea is let's all grow together, right? And that's where we are trying to leverage this medium and trying to grow together in that. How about you?
no, great. Perfect. I think I realign a lot in that as well, because that's exactly my idea behind when I'm trying to guide somebody as well, right? The best investment you can actually make is just in yourself.
Yes.
What I believe is, the motivation does not last. When you're scrolling on Instagram every day and you see a motivational video and it charges you up, right? You're like, damn, man, this is it. This is what I want to do. And, from tomorrow, I'm going to wake up early and I'm going to have the best meals. I'm going to stay in shape, not eat outside. You get all those kicks when you're scrolling through reels. But motivation is very temporary. What you do with that motivation is what that matters in Canada, right? So as important it is to consume good content, because it is very rightly said that you're average of 5 people that you hang out with.
Yes.
And this is another quote I will share, from one of the teammates I heard was, if you put a king in the center of a circus, the circus does not become the king's kingdom.
Oh, wow.
But the king himself becomes a clown.
Okay. Yeah.
So it matters a lot who you associate yourself with. And in today's day and world, our associations are not just people. They are the content that you're consuming every day, the reels that you're scrolling every day. What kind of reels, in your subconscious mind, what are you training your mind about? That is exactly what you need to ask yourself. Second, what kind of things you are reading? I'm not saying, we live in a world where podcasts and stuff like YouTube are so readily available. Maybe a lot of people don't even pick up their books anymore, right? But so be it. Listen to at least good podcasts, right? So that's where investment in yourself comes into play. And just to connect it to the first point that I was making, so motivation is very temporary.
Yeah.
I believe, and from what I know you from is, and probably you believe too, that habits are the answer to everything, right? So it is very important to inculcate good daily habits into our schedule. And I was thinking to myself this morning, it just depends who's controlling it. Are you controlling your day, or is your day controlling you?
Wow.
That's exactly what it comes down to in the end, right?
Yes.
So what do you feel about it? What is the importance of having, good habits in a person's life and for personal development as well?
Absolutely. I believe habits are something which will dictate your success in life. And I'm a big believer in that. So, because I personally feel, see, like anything that you think, in order to get that into reality, it needs to be repeated again and again. And what is that going to do? How is that going to happen? That is by building the right habits. So if you first think, then you do that repeatedly, that is build the habit, only then it will come into the reality, is what my personal thinking is. And that is where having good habits are very important. See, as you mentioned as well, like technology is there, and even if I type anything to chat GPT, well, it will give me fantastic like health benefits and what should I do in order to take care of my finances and all that stuff. But guess what? Application is something which people lack at. And that is again coming down to the part of habits. Build good habits, build a good environment, and take control of your life and succeed.
Absolutely. I think this was so much valuable to everybody. And let's just, to sum it all up towards the end, Adi, in a world, or like maybe if I have to give you 2 minutes to tell exactly who you are and exactly what you do and how is it that you're impacting lives out there, what would you say?
Great. And first of all, I would like to thank Almighty and God, because it's because of God's grace that we are able to help this community. I personally believe if you give good, only then you get good. And in order to get good, you need to give good. So it's both ways all around. So again, I'm a licensed financial consultant in North America, where I help and sit down with people, save on taxes, reduce debt, buying your first house. What are some strategies for that? Overall areas about money and finance. And that's where I personally sit down, educate them, and then bring value for them.
It was a great conversation with you, Aditya, and I expected no less. Hopefully people watching us from this would take away at least something new that they'll be able to implement into their lives and improve their financial health perhaps.